All right, let's tackle a really high-stakes medical question. When you have a dangerous blood clot that gets stuck in the lungs, what is the absolute best way to handle it? I mean, what's the gold standard? And believe me, this isn't some rare, obscure problem. We're talking about a pulmonary embolism, and it is the third leading cause of cardiovascular death right here in the United States. That's a huge deal. See, when this blockage happens, it can lead to catastrophic heart and lung failure. It's incredibly serious. And that's exactly why finding the best, fastest, and safest treatment is just so critical. Okay, so let's start by digging into the scale of this problem a little more and get a handle on the central challenge that doctors are up against every single day. So here's the core of the issue. It's this incredibly dangerous balancing act. On one hand, you have to destroy that clot and fast to save the patient's life. But on the other hand, the most powerful clot-busting treatments come with a major risk of severe, even deadly bleeding. It's like walking a medical tightrope, you know? You have to find that perfect balance between being effective and being safe. So a major new study decided to put 5 different advanced therapies to the test to see which one really comes out on top. Let's meet the contenders in this medical showdown. All right, first up, we have something called systemic thrombolysis. You can think of this as the carpet bomb approach. Doctors inject a really powerful clot-busting drug into the bloodstream, and it just circulates through the entire body to attack the clot. The big downside? A much higher risk of collateral damage, like causing dangerous bleeding somewhere else. Okay, next on the list is standard catheter-directed thrombolysis, or SCDT for short. Now, if the last one was a bomb, this is more like a guided missile. A tiny tube, a catheter, is guided right to the clot in the lung. Then it delivers a lower dose of medicine exactly where it's needed. The whole point here is to try and lower that risk of bleeding in other parts of the body. Then we've got ultrasound-assisted thrombolysis, also known as USAT. Think of this as an enhanced guided missile. It's a lot like the last one, but this catheter also shoots out ultrasonic waves. These waves help break up the clot and actually make the drug work even better, right at the target. Our fourth contender is catheter-based embolectomy. Now this one's different. Instead of using drugs to dissolve the clot, this method uses a catheter with a special device on the tip to physically suck it out or pull it out of the artery. It's a totally different strategy. And last but not least, we have surgical embolectomy. This is the big one. It's the most invasive option. We're talking full-on open heart surgery where a surgeon literally goes in and manually removes the clot. As you can imagine, this is usually saved for the absolute most critical life or death situations. So with 5 completely different options on the table, how in the world do you figure out which one is truly the best? Well, that is exactly where this massive new analysis comes into play. The researchers used this really powerful statistical method called a Bayesian network meta-analysis. I know, it's a mouthful, but what it does is pretty cool. It lets them combine the data from tons of different studies and compare all 5 treatments at once, even if those treatments were never directly compared head-to-head in the same study. It's kind of like creating one giant super study to get the most reliable answer you possibly can. And you can see the effort they went to right here. To make sure they were only using the best evidence, they started with over 1,500 studies. Think about that. And they carefully filtered all of them down to just the 47 most relevant ones. But those 47 studies covered more than 267,000 patients. That is an enormous amount of data, which makes this analysis incredibly powerful and robust. This map here is a great visual for the network part of the analysis. See the dots? Those are the 5 treatments, and the lines between them show how many studies directly compared them. So a thicker line means more direct evidence. But the really amazing part of this method is that it can still make really strong comparisons even where the lines are thin, or where there's no line at all. Okay, so let's get to the good stuff. The results. The moment of truth. What did this massive super study actually find out? And we have to start with the most important question of all, right? Which one of these therapies gives a patient the absolute best chance of survival, not just in the hospital, but in the long run too? And wow, the verdict on survival is, well, it's remarkably clear. Take a look at this chart. The way it works is the line that's highest and furthest to the left represents the best treatment. And you can see that orange line, that's ultrasound-assisted thrombolysis, or USAT. It is clearly on top. It had the highest probability of being the best for reducing the risk of death, both in the short term and for the long haul. But hey, survival is only half the story, isn't it? We have to talk about safety. And on that front, USAID also came out with the lowest risk of major bleeding, which is fantastic. But here's an interesting twist. The standard catheter therapy, SCDT, was actually the safest when it came to preventing the one complication that everyone fears the most, a brain bleed. Okay, so let's put all the pieces together. What's the final verdict? What's the big takeaway from all this incredible research? Well, this table really lays it all out for us, nice and simple. USCDOT is the clear overall winner. It hits that sweet spot, that critical balance of saving lives and preventing major bleeding. At the same time, we see that other treatments, like SCDOT and even surgery, have their specific moments to shine, especially when it comes to very specific safety concerns. And you don't have to take my word for it. The study's own conclusion really says it all. They found that among these advanced therapies, the ultrasound assisted approach offered the best combination of clinical and safety outcomes. It's a huge endorsement. So, what does this all mean? Well, this research gives doctors a much clearer roadmap for making what is quite literally a life or death decision. And that just leaves us with a final, pretty powerful thought. How will this amazing new evidence actually change the way doctors and hospitals treat this deadly condition? And how many more lives will it save out there in the real world?